When exploring the coasts of Skyrim, we can encounter an odd occurrence. There are a dozen shipwrecks in the waters of this province, caught on the rocks or on the ice, sealing their fate as landmarks for the rest of time, or until the wood rots. Interestingly, in the base game I believe the ferry to the island of Solstheim is the only time we see a boat actually move, implying in this universe that almost every time someone from Skyrim attempts to set sail, they crash. Despite this, the shipwrecks themselves are nothing unusual. Once you leave the towns and cities of this game, the whole of Skyrim becomes a landscape of ruin. But one set sticks out compared to the rest. If we travel east to the isolated waters of the Sea of Ghosts, we will eventually run into a very unusual map marker. Our compass is telling us there's a shipwreck here, but we can't see anything. If we swim out to it, all we find are loose bits of debris, because unlike the rest of the ships in Skyrim, these ones are under the water. But not just under the surface, I mean really under the water. This is, I believe, the deepest landmark in these oceans, a set of wrecks that aren't even slightly visible from the surface, all sunk in an area known as Pilgrim's Trench. On the surface we have the icy grey waves of the Sea of Ghosts, but below our visibility drops dramatically. As we descend into the trench, we find that the light begins to fade and the silhouettes of 4 broken ships start to appear. The reason I'm bringing up these wrecks today is because of a certain feeling these structures give me. They feel incredibly out of place. Obviously no one sunk these here on purpose, they are literally not supposed to be down here, but in terms of the design of the rest of the ocean, which is normally totally devoid of basically anything, they really feel like an intrusion on the empty landscape. I believe these wrecks perfectly introduce what I want to talk about today, a concept known as Submechanophobia. Unlike its vaster, more ancient cousin Thalassophobia, the fear of water, this one is very specific and modern. A fear of, or unease around, sunken man-made objects. Structures that should be on the surface, yet have somehow found their way into the depths below. I don't think Pilgrim's Trench is particularly scary, but I do find it unsettling, perhaps unintentionally so. The main reason it sticks out so much is because the rest of the ocean out here is totally devoid of anything at all. You could swim around here for hours and find nothing, except for 4 silent wooden graves. But there is another game that toys with this concept even more. A game that dares to ask if you perhaps are afraid, or at least uncomfortable, with alien objects found in an alien world. But unlike the wooden man-made structures of Skyrim, one game takes this concept far more literally. Subnautica is a survival game where you crash land on a planet seemingly entirely composed of water. This is not a world you are designed to survive in. If it wasn't for your life pod remaining intact, the only one from your ship to do so, you'd likely collapse from exhaustion or be eaten by the local wildlife within hours, as is what happened to all of your fellow survivors. The more astute among you may recognize what I'm about to bring up. It's a little discrete object right over here. Oh. The destruction of your ship, the Aurora, solidifies your already helpless situation. It creaks and groans and shudders constantly, and it's inherently associated with danger. You're only incentivized to come here once it's exploded, and you're told you have to prevent a radiation leak. It's full of fire and flooding, and that's all without mentioning the more corporeal threats swimming around outside. But in my opinion, the real haunting begins with the pieces that didn't stay with the hull. Because when your ship came down, it didn't land in one piece. Instead, dozens of chunks blew off and landed all across this ocean, turning what was once an advanced spacecraft into nothing more than piles of debris littering this alien world. Many of these wrecks look just fine, there's nothing much to be unsettled by in the shallow, light-filled reefs, but the further you actually go from the Aurora, the stranger these wrecks seem to become. And once you go deeper, it gets darker, more alien, and entirely more unfriendly, making these hunks of human metal seem even more foreign to this environment. One is found perched precariously over a cliff edge in the dark. You can see its sparks from a distance, but the topography highlights how this really isn't supposed to be here. Another is found submerged in total darkness, allowing you to stumble across it completely accidentally. I've played this game many times, and I've always struggled to find this wreck, including for the part I'm filming now. If we shut off the lights, you can barely tell it's here at all. But the lack of light can, paradoxically, make these pieces of debris actually less unsettling, because you can't see what they look like, a compliment I hear all the time too. So instead, we come to the most alien-looking biomes in this game, filled not with sunlight, but with bioluminescence, and it's here that these cold, silent, foreign objects appear the most out of place. Contrasting the wrecks in Skyrim, where man-made structures stood out by interrupting a cold, dead ocean, here the debris left by the Aurora stands out for intruding on an otherwise flourishing alien landscape. The bulb zone is a great example of this. The electric blue plant life and electric carrying animals allow the distant sparks of the wreckage to blend in. But once you get closer, the lack of life, of colour, makes it unequivocally clear that these pieces are really out of place. And I think that makes them far more unsettling than the wreckage found loitering in the dark. Litter found on a forest trail sticks out more than a packet of crisps on the side of a road. Sure, the wrecks in the dunes on the edge of the map may be in a far more intimidating environment.
Detecting multiple Leviathan class life forms in the region. Are you certain whatever you're doing is worth it?
But are you really taken aback by something like this? Comparatively, the Grand Reef found on the edge of the map is full of life, and despite being so deep, light. If the similarly lively bulb zone showed us how these wrecks don't belong, the Grand Reef shows us how they can dominate. Here, the alien life is huge, but the wreckage is equally deep and unwelcoming. And that brings us to the last piece I want to talk about from this game, my favourite and least favourite one. Descending from the surface, we can see that it finally begins to appear 160 metres down. A tall arch of sparks and twisted metal, lying here motionless in a completely alien environment. Its shape is distinctive and unnatural. The area around it is flat and open, yet it juts out of the sand like a monument to the ultimate piece of litter. It is, in my opinion, the most unsettling piece of wreckage in this game. There are bigger wrecks, there are deeper wrecks, but I don't know. The towering, twisted metal arch has always stuck out in my mind. Skyrim's wrecks stood out as silent wooden coffins interrupting a dead ocean. They weren't particularly deep or grand, but they were weird. Subnautica's, on the other hand, provide a much more literal interpretation of the fear of alien objects in an alien world. They're huge, warped and distorted, colourless steel remnants in an otherwise bright, alien landscape. What really highlights how out of place they feel, however, is how hard many of them are to see. I mentioned the wreck found in this biome of complete darkness, but honestly most of these deep wrecks can't be seen without the use of technology, whether that be sonar or lights. Seeing the pings resonate off these colossal steel towers, knowing that only a short while ago this would have just been open ocean, is something I find very unsettling. But the funny thing about Subnautica is, despite how much deeper we've gone, despite how much deeper we can still go, the scale of these wrecks are nothing compared to what we have next. Because no matter how deep we program a game to go, the real world goes much, much deeper. October 25th, 1944. Off the island of Samar in the Philippines, a small American task force is set upon by the Imperial Japanese Navy, led by the Yamato, the largest battleship ever built. Just one of its gun turrets weighed more than any American destroyer, and the ship itself was heavier than the entire American task force combined. During the course of the battle, 4 of the American screen ships, tasked only with defending the vulnerable flotilla, did something unthinkable. They charged straight at the Japanese Navy. These ships fought valiantly and struck many of the enemy vessels. They were described as the destroyers who fought like battleships, and the American attack from the sea and the air had convinced the Japanese that they were fighting a much larger force, causing them ultimately to retreat. But it isn't just the actions of these ships that matters. it's their final resting place. Because of the 4 that charged the Japanese, 3 of them were sunk. And what stands out so much about these ships, apart from their heroic last stands, is where they sank. They were lost over an area of the Pacific known as the Philippine Trench, part of the Hadal Zone, the deepest regions of the ocean, named after the Greek god of the underworld. And for 77 years, the impenetrable depths of this trench hid the wreckage of these vessels from us completely. For context, sunlight can only reach a maximum of about 1,000 meters into the ocean. The mean depth of the Pacific is about 4,000 meters, and in 2021, the wreck of one of these destroyers, the USS Johnston, was identified at a depth of 6,460 meters, making it at the time the deepest shipwreck ever discovered. A record that was broken the following year when her sister ship, the USS Samuel B. Roberts, was discovered at a staggering depth of 6,895 meters, or 22,621 feet. It is pitch black down here. No sunlight comes anywhere close to reaching these ships. Only through sonar can we detect that they're even here, and we'd have absolutely no idea what they looked like without artificial lighting, leading to these images. The lack of oxygen down here allows the wreckage to be remarkably well preserved considering the conditions in which they sank and of where they dwell now. They both still have their hull numbers visible, and the Johnston's guns are still pointing at where the enemy once was. These are the deepest shipwrecks in the world. The scale of the depths of which they have sunken to is hard to comprehend. Very few of us will ever see something nearly 7 kilometers tall. The world's tallest building is 830 meters tall. The Alps rise to 4,807 meters, and the tallest mountain in North America is 6,190 meters. Unless you've been to the Andes or the Himalayas, you'll have no visual reference for just how vastly deep the ocean can get. So, allow me to demonstrate. If we estimate the bow of the Samuel B. Roberts to be roughly 9 meters tall, I can place it on a scale model of its depth. As we saw in Subnautica, the sonar tends to be instant in that game. You hear the ping of the surrounding terrain straight away. But at a depth nearing 7 kilometers, the sonar would instead sound like this. "9.2 seconds. It would take about 9.2 seconds to reach the wreckage and bounce back up through 6,895 meters or 22,621 feet of water, all while you waited in total silence." If you were to take a vertical slice of the Philippine Trench down to the resting place of the Samuel B. Roberts, those tiny grey pixels at the bottom would be what it looks like to scale. And that's how far you'd have to travel to see it. The sunken vessels of Skyrim, interrupting a cold, dead ocean, introduced us to the eeriness of man-made objects placed into an alien world, introduced us to the concept of submechanophobia. Subnautica, of course, vastly increased the scale, taller objects, bigger wrecks, in deeper and more alien environments than before. But these games, and in fact any game, are nothing compared to the scale of our oceans here on Earth. These 2 destroyers sit in a trench 16 times deeper than the deepest wreck in Subnautica. They are a silent monument to the heroism they portrayed that day, and how far away the world we share our planet with really is. The 3rd destroyer lost on that day has, unfortunately, still never been found. Perhaps sometime soon this video will become outdated, the ships will be reunited, and the record for the deepest shipwreck in the world will be broken once again. If we go back to Subnautica one last time, we can stand at the edge of the map, above the endlessly deep cliff face. If we want to dive to the depth that these destroyers are at in real life, if we wanted to demonstrate how vastly different the scale of Earth is compared to this game, to any game, then we'd have to do this. And fall for over 3 minutes. Thank you for watching.